initiative, and he comes with his two sons. Yaakov shares with his son, Yosef, in front of his grandchildren apparently, the prophecy that he received in Beit El, also called the name Luz, about the blessing, the additional children that he will have. And repeats that prophecy in verse 4. Let's see it right away. And then we're going to see the rest of Yaakov's speech. And the question I'm going to ask you is the continuation of his speech in verse 5 and in verse 6 and 7 maybe a continuation of the prophecy, or is it not? So in Pasuk 4, Vayomer Elai, Yaakov shares with Yosef when God revealed himself to him in Luz in Beit El and gave him a bracha. Here's the bracha. He's sharing with him, Hineni mafrecha v'yarbiticha, I'm going to multiply you. Unetaticha, I'm going to give you, allow you to have likahal amim, a congregation of nations. In other words, you, Yaakov, you're going to have more children. And that could be Binyamin. V'natati et haaretz hazot, and the land that I'm giving you, lizaracha charecha, but forever achuzat olam. Here, if I'm not mistaken, Yaakov added by himself the last two words, achuzat olam. Okay? Although the blessing of giving the land of Canaan to Yaakov, the words, you will seize onto it forever, did not appear. Some explain that he's adding these words here to counter off what stated at the end of the last parsha, Vayechazuba. We're seizing the land now in the land of Mitzrayim and we're multiplying. In contrast to seizing the land, our ultimate objective is to seize that land, going up north in the land of Canaan. That's really our position. Can we give this gentleman a chumash as well, please? Thank you so much. Show him the place. Thank you. Now, after this, we come to Pasuk 5. And the question we're asking here is, we're now going to learn that Yaakov will dawn upon Yosef and give him what's called the Bechora. The Bechora is the right, the privilege of the Bechor, the firstborn. What is the right of the Bechora according to the law from Sinai? A double portion. Hebrew, Pi Shnayim, a double portion. Pasuk 5, again, I want you to focus on in the question, is Pasuk 5 a continuation of this prophecy, or is this from himself? Ve'ata, and now, Shnei vanecha, your two sons. Remember who's talking to who?
Yaakov. Talking to Yosef.
Beautiful. Ve'ata, and now, Shnei vanecha, your two sons, hanoladim lecha, that are born to you where? Be'eretz Mitzrayim. They're born to you until when? Ad bo'i eilecha Mitzrayima, until my arrival to you in Mitzrayim. Lihem. Li. Your two sons are li. They're mine. Huh? What do you mean they're mine? Excuse him. Wow, what do you mean? Here he explains what he means. Ephraim u'Menachem, Kiruven v'Shimon, Yihiyuli. Your two sons are going to be just like Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon are my biological sons, and they're two of what will become the tribes. And now, Yaakov says that your two sons, Ephraim and Menachem, they're going to be like mine. They're going to just be like Reuven and Shimon. They're going to be like my sons. What does that mean? What are they going to get? A portion of what? An inheritance of what? The land. An inheritance in the land of Israel that's coming. Umoladitacha, and what will be born to you, Pasuk Vav, verse 6. Asher holadita acharayim, whatever you gave birth after them, lecha yiyu, they'll be yours. They're not going to be mine. Al shem achayim, on the name of their brothers, yikaru, can they be called benachalatam. Let's leave the last term alone right now. Does anyone here have insight, understanding? The decision to make Yosef a Bechor and give him a double portion by giving his two sons, Ephraim and Menachem, a part of the land, is that prophetic from God? Because he started speaking with, this is what God spoke to me in Luz, in Beitel. Or is this solely the decision of Yaakov? And can you prove what you're saying? Steve, what do you think? Do you understand my question?
Yes.
The decision to give Yosef the Bechora, a double portion, is this a decree from God to Yaakov in Luz? Or is this something separate? Decision made by Yaakov himself. What do you say?
I see it's made by Yaakov.
How do you prove it, what you're saying? How do you prove it?
There's no mention before this giving to the two sons of Ephraim.
I want to see more proof from the text. What did you say, David Greenwald?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. So start cooking. Yes.
I think from Hashem, because Yaakov had a dream of the vision from Hashem, but he just tell the vision to Yosef. He give the
If you're right, in verse 5, if he's quoting God, he would say, V'ata, and now, your grandchildren, V'nei Vanecha. You're saying God, if Yaakov is telling what God told him, then God would tell him that your grandchildren will be like your children. But it says, Shnei Vanecha. It's direct from Yaakov to Yosef. And what about the word Ve'ata, and now? Isn't this like a word of contrast as opposed to what is said above? In other words, in verses 3 and 4, Yaakov is sharing with Yosef God's prophecy to him a while ago in Beitel in Luz. But once you get to the word Ve'ata, and now, it seems to be a word of contrast. Shnei Vanecha, your two sons. If it was Yaakov talking to you, it was God talking to Yaakov, it says, your two grandchildren should be stated. That's how I understood, and I learned this with my dear father-in-law, Rabbi Horowitz. My dear friends, what we're saying right now, I saw in the Rashbam, grandson of Rashi, as well as the Chizkuni. The decision. You want to pull? Want to have a play of tug of war? Who can pull stronger? The decision to make Yosef the Bechor, the Rashbam says, and others, this is the decision of Yaakov. Why would it be his decision? Who can explain? Why is Yaakov giving preferred treatment to Yosef? That now Yosef is like a double portion. Meaning, when we talk about Nachalat Eretz Yisrael, inheriting the land of Israel, we will have 13? Do I understand correctly? Yosef is...
for two. Yosef becomes Ephraim.
Okay. So isn't that 13?
Well, because Levi didn't get
Levi will go out. Yosef's name will not appear. And instead, Ephraim and Asher, to give us a sum total of how many portions in the land of Israel? 12. So what was the... One second. Was there another question I was asking right now? I just lost my trend of thought.
What made him decide?
What made him decide? At least now I understand why you're standing up. What made Yaakov decide that Yosef should get the Bechora? You had an answer?
A little bit.
Mr. Myron, yes?
First of all, to relate to the ability to actually do so, Yaakov himself did that to himself. He was not the Bechor, and yet he purchased it off of Esau, teaching us that you can, in fact, transfer it from someone who is not. Second of all, because Yosef has the distinct personality trait that the rest of the Shvatim did not have. First of all, he was Yaakov's favorite son when he was with him. He was the one who he taught all of whatever it was he was teaching him, whether it was Torah, whatever it was he who was being taught. And even in Galut, he still stayed strong, whereas who's to say the other brothers didn't
Okay,
also?
that's nice answers. I want to adjust one of your answers. Do you have any other answers, gentlemen? Why does Yaakov decide that Yosef should be the firstborn and get a double portion? Other reasons that you have insight to? You said something nice, that he was a leader. He adopted the attributes of his father most of all the others. But I want to adjust one of your answers. It's not that Yaakov decided to be the Bechor. This was a prophecy to Rivka. And Rivka managed the entire show that Yaakov should to get the blessing. What do you want to say, Thomas?
Joseph has the merit to save all his family, with provide for everyone.
Yosef.
Yeah.
Very good. What you just said right now, the Gemara brings, you should be very happy, in Baba Batra 123, that since Yosef managed, nourished, supported the family during the years of famine, he deserves to get a double portion. Any other reason? That's very clear. Why Yosef should be like the Bechor? Why? Can you lower that before I pass out? Thank you. Let's put it down to 26. I don't want to take off my shirt in front of everyone. Go ahead.
Could it be a dream of Yosef also? I mean, you understand from the dream?
That's leadership. Maybe he gets dreams, he gets prophecy. But what else? Is Yosef the Bechor?
No.
Well,
In some sense, he's like, he's the first son of his family.
Oh, Yosef is the first son of the mother. And who is the preferred mother of Yaakov Avinu? Rachel. So certainly, as the Chizkuni says this as well, he is the Petarechem, the opening of the womb of his mother Rachel, and she was the preferred wife. What's her?
The Bechor goes by the father, not the mother.
No.
That's why the man has the responsibility to pick him up.
You're right. From a certain, that's true from that. So, but he, as far as the main wife is concerned, the firstborn of the father with this woman, Rachel, is indeed Yosef. So for these reasons, certainly Yosef is chosen by his father to have the Bechora. And it's Yaakov's decision, it seems, according to the understanding of the Pasuk. Otherwise, it would have been stated differently. And therefore, anyone else born thereafter to Yosef, he's not included. Apparently, there's something in the hidden secret world that the number 12 levels or 12 different lanes of serving Hashem, 12 different talents, is the makeup of the Jewish people, and therefore they're going to be 12 tribes, each tribe having a talent, a specific, indeed, talent or great value to make up what will later be the Jewish people. Very nice. Let's continue. Va'ani, in Pasuk Zayin, verse 7, Va'ani bevoi, and when I was coming, mi Padan, from the area of Padan, what Padan? Padan Aram. Meita alai Rachel beretz Knan baderach. My wife, she died on me. Where? Baderech. Why is it so important to explain that she passed away on the road? Be'od kivrat eretz, while there was still quite a distance of hiking or walking, lavo Ephrata, to come to the nearest town called Ephrat. Yesterday we were learning Sefer Shmuel, learning about David, and we're learning that he is called a Ephrati. Okay? Ephrati, from Ephrat. Vekberesham, and I buried her there, Bederech Ephrat. He Beit Lachem. What does this have to do with anything? Why is it being stated here?
He just asked Joseph for the promise to be buried in.
I'm asking you to please bury me where? In Hebron, by my ancestors. So what?
He didn't do this for.
So many of the Rishonim, I think Rashi amongst them is others, this is an explanation. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. You know why I buried your Ima where I buried her, and didn't bring her to the Marata Machpelah, the cave of Machpelah in the city of Hebron? I have a reason. What's the reason? Does anyone remember the circumstances in which the mother Rachel passed away? Chaim, do you remember what were the circumstances? What happened at that moment? Do you remember? Yisrael, do you remember? What happened when Rachel passed away? What happened to her that time? What did she do that day? Who remembers? She gave birth. She gave birth to Binyamin. When a woman is giving birth, there's a lot of bleeding going on. It's not in the honor of the deceased to delay burial because of the physical matters that are going on. So therefore, the Netziv of Alaj and some others explain why the quickness of Yaakov to bury Rachel there in Beit Lechem, rather than traveling through Gush Etzion and getting to Hebron. It could take at least another day of traveling. Maybe it's another 20 kilometers, if not at least a day, right? So, you know what? I had to bury her there, physically, in order to there be honor to the deceased. That's one of the ways that the Rishonim here are explaining. Chazal are sages. And Rashi brings Chazal here as well, that she has to be buried on the derech. She's the mommy, the mother. A mother cares so much for her children. Rachel, as we learn about the prophecy of Yirmiyahu, she cries and prays for the return of her children from Europe and America and South America and Asia and Africa and all the places in the world. She's praying and she's crying, as the famous words of the prophet, stop crying. And she refuses to be comforted. And then the prophet Yirmiyahu says, in the future, Vishavu vanim ligvulam, your children shall return to their borders. And then Rachel stops crying. The allegorical understanding here of Rachel being on the road, that is the road in which the Jewish people that are dispersed to all corners of the world will be conglomerating, collecting together, coming on the road. And who's on the road to meet them and pray for them until they arrive? Rachel Imenu. That is what our understanding is, that after the decision was made for Rachel to be buried on the road, God prophesies Yirmiyahu that she's the national Ima. She's the mother praying for her children to come home. Okay? A mother always worries for her child. Okay? My wife says, Menachem, it's 12 o'clock. Where is he? Please call him up. Every night, he's coming home late. Call him up. The mother's always worrying, when are the children coming back home? That's their national concern. So that is another understanding why she is buried there for future reasons. Any questions regarding this? Okay. Now is the meeting. Now is the time for blessing. By the way, Yosef is here with his sons in the house of Yaakov in Goshen, apparently, but the other sons are not here in the area. Vayar Yisrael et bnei Yosef. Yisrael, the higher level name of verse Chet. Vayomer mi ele. Excusez-moi. What's your question, gentlemen?
Well, he never see the sons of Yosef?
He never saw his sons. Of course he saw his sons. How can he ask mi ele? Your question can be answered that the lack of vision of Yisrael only appears in verse 10. It is yet to happen. Furthermore, the Midrash says, do you know who stayed home serving his grandfather almost all the time? Ephraim. Menachem was like a VIP. Everywhere Yosef went on a press conference, he went all over the country. He was accompanied by which son? Menachem. Menachem, like the glittering lights of the press, of the TV, the radio. He was with him every place he went. Ephraim, though, humbled himself. He stayed home with Saba, with Saba Yaakov. And now your question. Don't you see him? What's going on? What is Vayomer Mi'ela? Therefore, there's room to understand the following. Mi'ela here means a wonder. How did you become so successful in educating your two sons? Your two sons are like superstars as far as believing in one God and being so loyal and trustworthy and honest and all the seven mitzvot Noachite laws. How did you educate them? How were you so successful? Okay? In such a, what kind of place is Egypt? Is that like in Yerushalayim?
No, lower.
Just a little lower?
But also spiritual.
Just a little lower?
No,
So let me see you say.
no, you can't.
You can't even compare. It's such a defiled, tamei land. How were you so successful? Mi'ela. How did you do it? Answer. Pasuk Tet, verse 9. Vayomer Yosef el aviv, banai heim. Asher natan li Elohim bazeh. I'm stopping in the middle of the pasuk. Okay? There are two reasons that allowed me to be so successful in educating the children. And that is, number one, it's a gift from God. It's a gift from God. God gave me the ability to be so successful. Okay? Furthermore, they grew up in a bayit. Banayim. First of all, Natani Elokim Bazeh, God gave me the ability. Number two, Banayim, the house that they grew up in. They're my sons. They grew up in a house where the foundations of goodness, of honesty, of straightforwardness, of believing in God and the seven Noachite laws are all very strong. So when you have Aleph, strong foundations by Ima and Abba, and number two, you have divine assistance in education of children, that's the answer. That's the answer why they came out so strong. It's not easy to educate people like this in Mitzrayim. Vayomar, and therefore Yosef says, Yaakov says, Kacham na'ilai, take them to me. Bring them over to me. Vavarchem, and I'll bless them. Remember, Yaakov is ill. What's happening with Yisrael? Pasuk Yud, ve'inei Yisrael kavedu mizoken. What does this remind you of?
So then,
What happened to Yitzchak? What happened to his vision?
He likewise sat on a dead.
It was dimmed. Vatichena keha einav mereot. His eyes were dimmed from seeing. It could be a sign of what?
Old age.
Not only old age, but
Sick.
he's sick. He's dying. He's dying. He's on his deathbed. It could be. Ve'einei Yisrael kavdu mizoken. Okay? Lo yuchal lirot. He can't see. Now, gentlemen, when Yitzchak was about to pass away, what did he demand? Who to come before him? Esav. He wanted to give the bracha. Okay? And in the end, did he bless the firstborn? Bless the firstborn, or he blessed Yaakov? He blessed the younger one. Let's see what happens here. Vayagesh otam elav. Yosef brings close his two sons. Vayishaklem, he loves them, he kisses them. Vayichabek, he hugs them. Vayomer Yisrael, again the Torah uses the name Yisrael because we're dealing with lofty, high, holy matters. Ra'o fanacha, to see you, lo filalti, I didn't pray, litpalel. I never prayed that I would see you. Meaning I prayed, but I never thought my prayer would be answered. I never thought it would be answered to see you. V'hinei, and behold, what did God give me? Hera oti Elokim gamet zarecha. Meaning, not only did God allow me to see you, He allows me to see even zarecha, hazera shalcha, your children. Now, the time is ideal. Vayotze Yosef otamim berkav. Until now, they were on his laps. And now wants to bring them even closer to the Abba. Vayishtachu le'apav arza. Who's bowing down? I think the father Yosef is bowing down submitting himself before his father. And now what does Yosef do? Vayikach Yosef et shneim, he takes his two sons, et Ephraim bimino, okay? Let's just say Steve is Yaakov. You Ephraim and you put him to your right. Mismol Yisrael, Joshua is Yisrael. So this gentleman Ephraim is to your left. Vet Menachem, Shushan, Mimin Yisrael, Shushan is to your right. Why did he do that? Usually a blessing is brought where we lay our hands. It's called smicha. We rest the weight of our hand on the head, and we bring whatever spiritual abilities or blessings we have in our hands, we bring it over to the head. So why is Menashe to your left but to your right? What's the idea? No.
The right
What?
The first one. So I give my right hand to the first one.
So the expectation is that your right hand, Yaakov Avinu, will now be rested upon the head of Menashe, because he's the firstborn. Excellent. Vayagesh elav, and now Yaakov approaches him. Pasuk Yudalid. And now we're going to see something surprising. Vayishlach Yisrael et yamino. He bestows his right hand. Vayashet, and he places Arosh Ephraim. Vuatzeir, the scripture is raising a wonder. Isn't Ephraim the younger? Vetzmolo, where his left hand, Arosh Menashe. And the pasuk ends by saying, Sikel et yadav, a word that we never ever saw in the Chumash. What is the root of the word Sikel? Sechel. In other words, his hands are being moved by the sechel of himself. He knows what he's doing. And then it says, Ki Menashe Bechor. Ki doesn't have the regular meaning here. Since doesn't make sense. Rather, what word would you offer for explaining the word ki? No. It can't be Menashe. If Menashe is the Bechor, then he should be blessed first. Here, the right hand of Yaakov is on the head of Ephraim. So what is ki? Despite. Even though, very good. Even though that Menashe is the Bechor, the right hand of Yaakov is on the head of Ephraim. And Eitan's question is,
Why he did this?
why did this? That's the $1,000,000 question.
Yes?
Yes, it's a $1,000,000 question. We're all asking, why does Yaakov do this? By the way, the fact that the scripture says Sikel et yadav means, is there or not a mistake? It's clear that it's not a mistake. It's not Sikel et yadav. He did it with his hands are motioned by his intellect. Now, what's going on? What is the reason? Huh? What have you learned? What have you prepared here?
Ephraim is a higher spiritual level.
Higher spiritual level could be. That's one understanding. What?
Menashe will be more tempted by the Egyptian culture.
Menashe will be tempted. Why?
Tempted.
Why?
More tempted because Yosef's taking him everywhere. And even if he raised Menashe, right, he's the same Menashe.
Okay. Can anyone take off of the point that you're saying, Shua? What does the name Menashe mean? No. Who remembers the name calling of Menashe? There's always an essence to a name.
Forgetting.
Ki nashani Elokim et kol amali et kol beit avi. The fact that God gave me a child, He's helping me forget my troubles, my problems with the family, my father's house. God forbid, there's a greater chance of assimilation in Menashe because he's more distant from the land of Israel, from the foundations of the father, in the basic name. God help me forget my troubles. He gave me this child. As opposed to Ephraim, what is the meaning of the name Ephraim? What's the root, the shoresh? Poreh, fruitful. Okay? So, what we see here, two approaches. Why? Ephraim is first. First clearly means more important. Rashi and others like Rashi took an approach about what will be in the history of Israel. What will be in the future. Who will come out of Ephraim? Yoshua ben Nun, excellent. Yoshua is the chief of staff and the pseudo-king of the nation of Israel when we go into the land of Israel. So we have him is very important, okay, that for the future. But the other reason, as we said, it's like a little musar. He's giving Yaakov as if he's giving some rebuke here. Ephraim should be first because Menachem is the one that will help forget his troubles from the land of Israel. Menachem, there could be forgetfulness, there could be detachment from the land of Israel. So in spite of the fact that Menachem is the Bechor, Ephraim is given the first bracha. Fine. Now, let's go on. What happens with the upcoming, what is the bracha? Pasuk Tedvav, verse 15. Vayivarech et Yosef vayomar. Is the bracha to Yosef or to the children of Yosef?
The children.
To the children. So why does it say Vayivarech et Yosef?
Because they're combined Yosef.
Yosef is alive, is kicking, is moving forward on behalf of his children. So it's the bracha really to the children, but it's through Yosef. Vayivarech et Yosef. Okay? Let's see what the bracha is. Vayomar. Ha'elokim asher italchu avotai lefanav. My ancestors that went before God. Avraham, Yitzchak. Ha'elokim haroeh oti. God is my leader. He's my shepherd. Okay? Me'odi ad hayom, that from then until now. Okay, so we're now beginning to learn about the bracha that the father or through the children through the father are getting, is that God is with me. The same God that's been watching over me, he's going to be watching over you. That's what it means. Now, often God may appear through a messenger. Here called in the upcoming pasuk, Hamalach hagoeloti, the angel that redeems me. Remember, Yaakov had a very tough life. A lot of troubles, the troubles of his brother Esav and Lavan, and the angel wrestling him. So he's been bailed out. He's been freed. He's been saved so many times. God uses messengers. They can be angelic, spiritual, or they can be also what? People. They too can be called a malach, which can mean a shaliach. So he's praying, Hamalach hagoeloti. Okay, there's a prayer that whoever sent the malach, which is God, Mikol, rather, is redeem me from every bed. Yevarech atanarim, let this God what? Bless the young children. V'karei v'hem shmi, and let my name be called on them, which is the name of Yisrael. V'shem avotai, also the names of my ancestors, Avraham v'Yitzchak, meaning the God that appeared to Avraham and the God that appeared to Yitzchak. V'yitgu larov b'kerev haaretz. So here's the bracha, supervision and being fruitful. Let you be fruitful and go be blessed like dagim. What's special about dag? Why is fish the source of blessing? Why?
They never stop popping out kids.
Why?
The fish.
Why? We mentioned it, I think, this week or last week.
Their eyes are always open and they never died in the flood.
But why are they subsequently getting blessing more than any other living being?
All these answers are correct. You're looking for
So, I'm looking for additional.
There's no Ayin Hara?
Why is there no Ayin Hara?
Because they're underneath the water.
That's the reason. Very good, Ori. Fish are not observed. They're not exposed. Whatever is exposed could receive damage, could receive injury, spiritual deficiency. But fish are underwater. They are not seen. I know you have a glass bottom boat, but that's in addition to your, not everyone has a glass bottom boat. So we don't see the fish, right? And therefore, they're not subsequent to ayin hara, to any evil eye, to any deficiency in the spiritual world. And therefore, dag is always a means of blessing, of being multiple. So here is in the bracha rishona, the first, in the merit of the fathers, the merit of Abba, Yaakov Avinu, they're going to be blessed like dagim. That's blessing number 1. What about blessing number 2? Pasuk Yud Zayin, there's an interruption. Verse 17, Vayar Yosef. What does Yosef notice after getting this bracha? Ki yashit aviv yad yamin al rosh Ephraim. He notices that the right hand of his Abba is on the head of Ephraim. Vayera beinav. He doesn't like this. He doesn't understand what's going on. Okay? Vayitmoch yad aviv lasirota. He would like to support the hand of his father to remove his hand me'al rosh Ephraim and put it instead al rosh Menachem. What do you think Yosef is thinking? That his father did make a mistake? And what to attribute the mistake to?
His old age.
Old age? Even more?
He's
He's blinded. Maybe Yosef is thinking, maybe Abba doesn't see well. He doesn't see that to my left is Menashe. And he crisscrossed his hands, right? He put his right hand on Ephraim, his left hand on Menashe. What is Yosef trying to do to separate his hands? That the right hand of Yaakov Avinu be on the head of Menashe. So maybe he thinks that it's because of blindliness. And Yosef knows that Menashe is not only is he the Bechor, but the truth is, he's not less of a tzaddik than his brother Ephraim. Don't misunderstand. It's just that we already explained what maybe the name Menashe represents. But both two sons are superstars, growing up in the worst country in the world. They're both equally superstars. So Yosef thinks there's a mistake. What does he say to his Abba? Vayomer Yosef Elavi, verse 18, Lo chen avi, Abba, this is not the right order. Ki zeh bechor. Okay? Now, are you allowed to tell your Abba? Is this a lack of respect to your father? By saying this? Abba, this is not right. As long as you think that your Abba made a mistake because he's blind, then it's okay. But once you know that Abba knows what he's talking about, then you're not allowed to say, Abba, you're making a mistake. Right now, it's apparently Yosef thinks his Abba made a mistake. And he says, Sim yamincha rosho, put your hand on his head. Pasuk Yutet, the father refuses. Vayimayin aviv. Vayomer, yadati v'ni yadati. I'm not blind. I know exactly who is to your right and who's to your left. I know it. That's why the Torah repeats itself. Yadati b'ni yadati. I know who the Bechor is. And you know what? Gam hu yeh la'am. He'll turn into, what do you mean an am? Meaning he will be
Nation.
a tribe. He'll grow in number. V'gam hu yigdal. He'll also grow into important people. Who will come out of Menashe? Who knows? You're right, B'nai Menashe. But who will come out of the tribe of Menashe? We'll learn in the Tanakh. Gidon. Okay? We'll learn that Gidon will be a great leader. Ve'ulam, however, Achiva Katon, the younger brother, Yigdal Mimenu, will be more greater than Menashe. And that's, of course, like you mentioned, Joshua, Yoshua ben Nun. What particular? V'zaro yem melo hagoyim. The nations of the world will be well known, knowing about Ephraim. What happened in the world that the world knows that a great leader from Ephraim did something so great? What did Yoshua do that affected the world? And Rashi brings.
He's the leader.
Not only that, but how did it affect the entire world? Which event in Sefer Yoshua, done by Joshua, Yoshua,
When they go through the Yarden.
affected the Yarden? How does that affect the entire world?
He said bodies of water in the war.
Okay, that's stated clearly about Yam Suf. It's also stated there, I don't remember, it could be. But something even more.
With the sun?
Very good. What can you remember the event? Can you tell us?
No, but you can tell much better than me.
Okay, thank you for the nomination.
For
I'm happy I have fans here. What?
in the war against he stopped the sun. The 5 kings.
The 5 Canaanite kings came and attacked the Givonites. Givon, not far from here. 6-7 kilometers going north. Givon. They attacked them. And then Am Yisrael was summoned to come quickly because we made a treaty with the Givonim. And we came up suddenly, we climbed up the Jericho hills and mountains, coming up. And then there was havoc in the army of the 5. And then, what 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers cannot do, God did. What did he bring down from the sky? These gigantic stones. And it killed so many people of the 5 Canaanite kings, even more than we killed thereafter in the war thereafter. And what did Yoshua ask for? Give me more time. So he prayed to God and he said, God, give me a timeout. Could you stop the sun? And what did God do? So even in Holland, they had no sun. The clock stopped. Okay? In other words, that had an effect on the world. Instead of having a 24-hour day, it was a longer day. We had more daylight to enable the soldiers of Yoshua to accomplish their feat of stopping the 5 armies, the king of Hebron, king of Yerushalayim, and others. Very good. So that's what it means. Zaro yemelo agoyim, Rashi says, name of the Midrash. The world will know about the greatness of Ephraim through this leader called Yehoshua. So here, Yosef now is being convinced by his father that Ephraim gets the first blessing. And let's continue to see what the second blessing is. Pasuk Kaf, verse 20. Vayivarchem bayomahu lemor. Okay? Yaakov now is adding a second blessing. We'll have to ask ourselves what's additional. Becha, in you. In you. What's in you? Through you, Yosef, Yivarech Yisrael lemor, a Jew, a Yisraelite, will bless when he wants to bless his children. May God make you, may God oversee you, that you be like Ephraim and Menachem. Isn't this interesting? Yaakov right now is blessing Yosef that when a member goes to give a blessing to his son, he should do it the following way. Now, isn't that interesting? It doesn't say, may God bless you like Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak, or Yitzchak and Yaakov, or Ruvain and Shimon. Ephraim and Menachem. Why? Exactly what we explained a few moments ago. The 2 children growing up in the worst place, Mitzrayim, so defiled, so vulgar, so terrible, the values and the behavior of people there, yet they came out like superstars, so wondrous, so full of faith and fear of God and values and self-control and so on and so forth. Wow, that's the blessing I want for our children. Okay? So right now, when we come to bless any of our children in the future, we want to mention the sons of Yosef. So this is the second blessing. We're now coming to the finale of this great meeting between Yisrael. The loftiness of Yisrael is about to pass away. And he says the following to his son Yosef in verse 21. Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, hine anochi met. He apparently senses he's about to die. Vaya Elokim imachem. Remember, he's so perturbed. Yaakov is so worried and concerned about the galut. And he asks, may God be with you. Veishiv etchem el eretz avotechem. That's his wish. His blessing that God watch over you, that you come back. Don't disintegrate here in the galut of Mitzrayim. May you be taken out. May God take you out to the land of your fathers. And what is now mentioned in this last communique? Vani, whereas I, natati lacha, I gave you, Yosef, shchem achad, al achecha, One meaning of the word Shchem Echad. I gave you a
Shem, one portion.
one portion. Another meaning?
Only Shem. One Shem.
One. What is Shchem?
City.
Yeah.
So two meanings. I gave you one portion al achecha, above and beyond your brothers. Meaning, Yosef, you received a?
City.
No. We're saying that the word Shchem could mean a portion. So he's saying, I've given you, Yosef, a Shchem al achecha, meaning al, above and beyond your brother. You've got a double portion. Yosef is the Bechor. He's represented by Ephraim and Menachem. That's one meaning. Another meaning you said is the place of Shechem.
Shem Echad, only Shem.
One Shem.
Are you saying now that the city of Shechem?
Just the city of Shem.
Just the city of Shechem. Okay, now let's ask ourselves, gee, why is Yaakov telling Yosef, I'm giving you, Yosef, one Shechem on your brothers, asher lakachti miyad ha'emori, I took, meaning the city of Shechem from the Amorites, becharbi uvekashti. What is a cherev? And keshet? A bow. Gentlemen, let's start raising questions. Question number one. What should bother us in understanding the pshat here? The simple meaning here.
You need to fight.
Yaakov fought in Shechem? Yaakov took Shechem by the usage of his sword and keshet, yes or no?
No. Yes.
You said two answers. Which one should I believe?
No.
Now you said a third answer.
Levi and Shimon.
So if Shimon and Levi are the ones that instigated what they did, how can Yaakov come and say, I took Shechem with my cherev and my keshet? Question number one. Question number two. Who remembers Yaakov's reaction to the taking of the people in Shechem? What?
Wasn't happy.
He was not happy. He was very disturbed by this process that they did. So how can he say, I took it, lakachti, I took Shechem with the cherev and the keshet? And by the way, I want to take advice with this soldier, Joshua. Let's talk about strategy right now. When we're attacking the enemy, what do we use first, cherev or a keshet?
The arrow.
The arrow, the keshet. Why? Explain.
It's further, it can reach further.
Lo-
more
long distance armory, long distance weapon. And after you use the long distance weapon, you get
them. It's easier to create, it's easier to develop.
beautiful. Then you get closer and use a
Cheaper.
cherev. So first you use the keshet for long distance attack, and then you get closer to the enemy. Then you use the cherev, the sword. Is that what's stated over here?
No.
Oh, it's not? Asher lakachti miyad becharbi uvekashti. So we have several questions. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow.
No.
Okay, one and a half. He's tall guy, very tall. Gentlemen, Rashi didn't talk about this, but Chazal did talk about this. Ken, Rashi did bring it in his last meaning. My dear friends, according to Chazal, our sages, and Onkelos. Does anyone have Onkelos here in your Chumash? You don't have?
I do.
Yes, I have.
What does Onkelos say in translation of the words Becharbi, with my sword, Uvekashti, and my bow? Bitzloti, Uvevauti. Tzloti is tefillah, my prayers. Ubauti are my requests. Gentlemen, what is Onkelos? Based on Chazal, by the way, explaining here that my sword and my bow, the meaning is my prayers and my requests. The meaning is the following. Do you know the success of Shimon and Levi Do you know why they were successful in their military mission? The answer is, a father always has to pray for the success of his children. Always. When the father and the mother pray for the success of the children, that indeed, God willing, will bring success. The truth of the matter is, when Shimon and Levi surprised the men in the city of Shechem, after they came and performed circumcision, and their attack was on day number 3, when they were all weak physically, 3rd day of the circumcision, it says, Vayavo betach. They came on to the people in Shechem, these Canaanites, the Amorites, and it was like, easy. It was betach. There was not even a conflict. It wasn't, they were like not even opponents. It was chik-chak, bekalut, with easy. Why? Because of the righteous father. Yaakov Avinu is saying right now to Yosef, you're getting one portion above your brothers. But I'm bringing your attention right now, at the end of my blessings, what is the job of a father in regards to his children? You know what? It's really, I'm the one behind the success of Shimon and Levi taking the city of Shechem. As we said before, the reason of the success of taking over Shechem was the tefillot. As the Targum says, tzloti uba'uti. My tefillot and my bakashot, my prayers and my request. In merit of the tefillot of Yaakov Avinu, that's how Shechem was taken over. And therefore, you should know that the success of your children, Ephraim and Menachem, will be the success of you, Yosef. Will you be a tzaddik or not? Okay? The clouds are coming. The darkness is about to set in. Yaakov is about to end his life. Yosef is a great leader. He's got the Bechora right now. He's going to get he's getting out the double portion through his children, but he's giving Yosef the recipe, the ingredients. If you want to have your children continue to be successful in serving God, in being national leaders in the future, in being idealistic, full of faith and fervor of serving God, you have to pray for your children's success. It's not going to just come like it is. And this ends the chapter of the 2 blessings of the preferential treatment to Yosef, because Yosef is the Bechor of Rachel. And since he's the Bechor of Rachel, we see that his 2 children are equivalent to any other tribe. His 2 children are equivalent to any other tribe. I want to share with you, to end the shiur today, a summary of some points that we've said until now. Yes, we're learning Vayechi Yaakov. And the Torah could have stated Vayagor Yaakov, and he was living there. However, the life of Yaakov now in Mitzrayim, surprisingly, is the best part of his life. He has his son with him, Yosef, for 17 years. He's now relieved of all his troubles. However, we notice that Yosef is careful not to be too much with his father. And it could be that this is purposeful. Okay, as my father explains based on some of the commentaries, that he wants to prevent interrogation, investigation, curiosity, that his father not suffer to hear the real story, because he doesn't want to lie. Third, we learned in a novelty that sickness does not appear in the Mikra, in the Chumash, until whatever sickness or illness that Yaakov Avinu has. And there was no such thing. But maybe God brought sickness into the world. Now, we didn't ask this question. He has 12 sons. We want to prevent a sudden death where the last will and testament will be unclear, and then, God forbid, we're going to have a feud and a fight. Who will get what? But now that he has sickness, it's a signal. He's about to die. Now is the time to bless Yosef and his children. Now is the time to call the others in, which is going to be the subject of our short tomorrow, the next chapter. Okay? Now he can divide his inheritance in the proper way and prevent future feud and differences between the brothers. Once the illness of Yaakov happens, Yosef acts instantly. He goes and brings his two sons with the hope that they're going to get a bracha from their grandpa before they're passing away. And in spite of the fact that the grandchildren were placed in the proper order for the oldest to be blessed, here we see Yaakov is stubborn. He's stubborn that he crisscrosses his hands. Okay? And he shows the preferential treatment to the younger one, Menachem. And he has reason. It could be that maybe that Ephraim is special or more unique, but they're both righteous, or there's less problem with Ephraim than Menachem because of Menachem's name of forgetting things in the future. But there's no doubt that they're both righteous, but Ephraim is first. Ephraim will be first for certain things, as we're going to learn when we get into the Chumash, but here the children get two blessings, and in the second time, he's hoping that Ephraim and Asher will be examples for all children of the Jewish people in the future. And therefore the present, the historical and custom of the Jewish people on Shabbat night is that a father lays his hand on the head of his children and blesses them. What happens, I'll ask you this question, that you don't have their head? Can you still bless them or not? Do you understand my question?
No. Your son are not in front of you, and you can make a blessing.
Yeah. Okay. Usually my afternoon before Shabbat is busy on the phone with our kids on the phone, our married children, or a soldier, or this or that, and we give them a long distance bracha without putting our hands on their heads. Okay? So usually, and that's a good practice for children to call up their parents and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. So, I don't know. There's no halacha for this matter. But what is a bracha? A bracha is a prayer. We're basically praying, turning to God. He's the source of all blessing. May it be the will of Hashem. When I put my hand or I bless my son, may you be like Ephraim. I'm basically asking a tefillah. I'm turning to the Almighty and asking Him, please bless my children, my grandchildren, to be like Ephraim and Asher, to be strong, to be leaders, to be idealistic, to go in the tradition of the parents, even though they're living in such a Gentile, terrible country like Mitzrayim. B'ezrat Hashem, may you all see also through marriage beautiful children and bless them to be like Ephraim and Menachem. Amen.
Amen.